I'm certain many of you don't know the chairman of Florence County Council as well as you should. When I asked him what he wanted me to say in my introduction, he said, "Tim, I'm just old Roger." Well, let me tell you a little bit about old Roger. Roger Poston's a lifelong resident of Lower Florence County, specifically the Hannah community. Roger's a merchant, a farmer, and a public servant. As a merchant, he and his brother own Palmetto Hardware in Lake City, which they opened in 2004. As a farmer, Roger was raised on a family farm, and today he grows row crops on the fields where he once played. Public service runs deep in the Poston family, as his father, R.L. Poston, served as on the county council for 23 years and served as chairman for 4 terms. Roger's public service career began in 2011 when, as a Republican, he won a special election for Florence County Council District 2. District 2, he wanted me to make sure I told everybody this. So District 2 is the largest district by area in the county. It stretches from the county line past Johnsonville to Evergreen, includes the town of Pamplico, touching the towns of Coward and Scranton, representing about a half of Florence County. He said that's a lot of roads and ditches to clean. Roger was recently been elected as chairman of the Florence County Council for a 2nd term. In addition to that, he's seeking his 2nd full term on council now. He's filing today. Roger attended Francis Marion College, has been married to Sharon for 30 years, and they have 1 daughter, Jennifer. When you talked with Roger, you will find him to be the consummate Southern gentleman, humble, kind, and unassuming. He is also the perfect leader for our council, working across party lines and multiple personalities to find common ground to move our county forward. It's my pleasure to introduce to the Greater Florence Chamber of Commerce, the chairman of the Florence County Council, old Roger Poston.
Thank you, Tim, for that introduction. I wonder about the last few words he just said is good luck. But Tim, I really do thank you. And the first thing I'd like to say is I thank you for letting me serve you on county council. And also let me thank you for having me here today. Florence County has seen more progress in a shorter time frame than has been seen in quite a while. With the beginning of the capital sales tax 1, the momentum began. Now the capital project sales tax 2 is adding more to life safety and infrastructure in our county that was sorely needed. President Harry Truman said it best, "It's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit." That's what's happening in Florence County. We, the council, we work well together, and we've had tremendous opportunities to show this collaboration in the projects completed as well as those that are still in the works. I'm proud to be a part of this council. We all work well with our elected officials. For instance, my senator, Hugh Letterman, told me over a year ago he planned to work with this council and he wanted to work with this council, and he has. And I think he'll continue to work with this council because he understands local government. He served as a mayor before he won his Senate seat. So he, like my good friend, Mayor Wakila, they understand local government. Mayor Wakila has been very helpful to me in this council, and it's indeed been a pleasure working with him. Let's look back at 2015. It's important to remember that while doing their normal work, Rusty Smith, our administrator, department heads, and county staff were directed to start and manage 474 capital projects put together by council as a result of the capital project sales tax 2. Remember, Y'all listen close, 'cause I speak real fast. They were directed to start, manage, and complete 474 capital projects in addition to their normal daily activities. 2015, implemented fire school at Florence Career Center, currently working with other school districts to implement the same program. Expansion of Greenwood Man Convenience Center, opening of a new Lake City Man Convenience Center, excavation of a 6-acre lake in Lake City, bonds issued for the construction of a $40 million new judicial center, judicial site properties on Irby and Court in the beginning stages of demolition, expansion of the Johnsonville Library parking, 2 fire stations completed, Kingsburg, Cartersville, 5 fire stations under construction, Johnsonville, Maine, Windy Hill, Howell Springs, West Florence, Flemingtown, 11 pumper trucks delivered, 1 tower ladder truck delivered, fire hydrant installations underway, radio upgrades to emergency management completed, traffic signal installed at Botany and Jefferson off West Palmetto, Olana, Scranton, Cowards, Johnsonville, Lake City, Pamplico, water and sewer projects under design, some nearing completion. Pamplico water tank complete. Town of Olana Town Hall renovations under construction. Town of Timminsville Maastricht building renovations complete. Town of Cowards expansion of youth baseball field. City of Johnsonville Prosser Recreation Complex under construction. EMS station on Sumter Street awarded January of this year. New EOC under design. 175 roads completed under Capital Project Sales Tax 2. 66 roads currently under construction. 7 roads were awarded January of this year. Near completion of the new Veterans Administration building on National Cemetery. Complete restacking of our complex building. Approved the scope and amended scope of the Capital Project Sales Tax 1 road widening projects, including scope extension for the reworking of the Paul Jones Road at the intersection of 52 and South Florence High School. Nearing completion of the contract with Pepco Energy Services. Continuing the implementation of the IT strategic plan. Approved Greenwood as the site for the new Miracle League field in Florence County. This is just a few of the 474 projects, now really getting closer to 500 projects that was added on to our staff. In addition to that heavy load, guess what came next? A record storm hit our county October 3rd, 2015. Due to the organizational leadership and work of the administrator, the county's team, there were no loss of life in our county due to the Carolina flood 2015, 0. We, the citizens of Florence County, are truly blessed. All staff, department heads, and county administrator deserve to be applauded. Our very own Dusty Owens, the Emergency Management Director, and his disaster preparedness team, along with Sam Brockington, our Fire and Rescue Service operator. All of the fire chiefs, all volunteers, all EMS, and all emergency staff in Florence County were in the middle of this storm. I was truly amazed how this unfolded as I listened to it over 7 days on my county radio. I found it striking that I saw no fire trucks in the stations. That's because they were strategically placed throughout the county so that no one in this entire county would be without fire protection or first responders. One fire chief was asked by a volunteer, "Chief, if the house is on fire, how far do we go into that water to get to that burning home?" But the chief's response was, "We'll take the truck to it won't go anymore. When it stops, we'll pull hose the rest of the way." My friends, that's dedication. Public Works had road plows, backhoes, track hoes, and trucks distributed throughout the county. The sheriff's office placed officers in designated areas throughout the county. I've observed some wonderful planning and organization through this storm. All the teams worked seamlessly together. If this had not been the case, we could have suffered terrible loss. There were over 250 water rescues alone. And this 250 is just the ones we know about. Shine on, Florence County, the storm's gone. I'm proud of this county. Many of you will remember this storm, especially the lower lying areas. I certainly will, because I live on a farm, as Tim just said. I live on Big Swamp Road. It's called Big Swamp Road because it runs parallel to a big swamp. And it is big. It's about a half mile across that swamp. And after it crested and all that water, it looked like a raging river going by my backyard. I saw water in places I've never seen water. But it wasn't as high as the Lynch's River was compared to what my friend told me. He said the Lynch's River was so high, you could see under it. Now, I question that. Let us move on into 2016. The county has heard from many citizens about a Miracle League field. Many of our citizens think it needs to be constructed, and many of the local officials and elected officials also. We've talked about it many times. This field is for the use and the delight of the clients of the Department of Special Needs and Disabilities. And if you've never attended a Miracle League game, you're missing out. A location has been agreed upon. County Council plans tomorrow to approve $42,000 to assist with the grading and asphalt and cement walkways at Greenwood Athletic Complex for the Miracle League ball field of Florence County. But again, I do encourage you, you need to at least go once to a Miracle League game. Nobody fusses at well, nobody argues where you're out of state. It's all smiles. Another project being discussed that's hot right at this point. We've had several meetings with elected officials as well as other people throughout the county about a parking deck. Time is of the essence for the project to build a parking deck behind the rear of the complex. Merchants and investors are being hurt by insufficient parking. The county has issued a request for proposal for engineering services to study our parking lot and to provide two different design schematics. The first one was to study the traffic flow and layout of parking as currently exists, with ideas of how to potentially increase the number of parking spaces. When the general public comes to Florence, if the court is in session, you can't find a place to park. The county has funds to remove the curbing and repave areas with the realignment of parking, and we had the money to do that, and so we estimated that give us about 50 extra parking spaces, which will help. But the design too was a plan of putting a deck behind the rear of the complex facility integrated with the traffic flow created with the first design schematic. This deck is to contain approximately 500 spaces with walkway access directly into the courthouse. The new medical school facility that Francis Marion University is building right down the street, they will need additional parking as well, and the county would like to facilitate that with the medical school. Now, we're very fortunate to have one of our own on council helping us with this deck project. He, as many of you know, is multi-talented, detail-oriented James Schofield. He's very thorough. He's past thorough. I bet his teachers didn't even check his homework. But James is he's a prime example of the county pulling the load together. He works tirelessly to bring good things to Florence County. I did see our senator week before last, and he asked me about the deck, how it's coming along, as well as the Miracle League. And I told him we needed his help. I told the senator that he should try and get the General Assembly to fund the local government fund to 100%. And keep it funded at 100%. If the General Assembly would fund that local government fund, which you keep reading about in the paper, at 100%, and continue to 100%, this council has already committed to me they can build that deck in 16 months and have the money to build a miracle field. Every single councilman has agreed to complete these two projects if this happens. The senator told me he would help me do what he could, and I believe he'll do just that. In the meanwhile, we're forging ahead with the projects to bring them to fruition. And additionally, we are continuing to move as quickly as possible to fulfill our obligations to the citizens. We promised them to fulfill these capital projects, and that's what we intend to do. Florence County is going great. We added 750 jobs in 2015. These jobs are really due to this great county's diversity. The Florence County Economic Development Partnership said that more than $100 million were made in capital investments in 2015. Florence, my friends, is a great place to live. In addition to this, Joe King and his staff is working daily trying to bring industry into this area. And he keeps telling me he's got something hot and he's got something on the burner, but he won't let me tell it. And he certainly won't tell it till it's here. But there's more to come. Florence has a bright future. I think we're extremely fortunate to have our own Senator Letterman as President Pro Tem, Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. Because I feel like with him there, our voices are heard in Florence all the way to the capital of South Carolina. To quote an old adage, it's been a long time coming, but it's here. Growth, the building of a stable infrastructure, improvement of life safety, and cooperation among our county and state officials. We are on the road again, and I intend to continue to make Florence County a safe and enjoyable place to live, work, and to raise our children. And again, I just thank you for having me.
You know, our next speaker has spoken to the Outlook Luncheon on 4 previous occasions, so I'm not quite sure how much of an introduction we need to provide. I will tell you, he graduated from Clemson University with his Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science, and he took his law degree from George Washington University Law School. He's a partner in the Wakila Law Firm. He was first elected mayor of the city of Florence in 2008, winning by 1 vote. He was reelected in 2012 by a few more votes. Perhaps the single most important thing you need to know about this speaker is that he's been the catalyst for dozens of developmental projects downtown over the last 7.5 years. His forte is that he leads by doing, not simply by directing. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mayor of Florence, Stephen Wakila.
Good afternoon. Thank you to my good friend, Dr. Fred Carter. Reggie Armstrong, congratulations. What I understand is that behind every good man is a good wife rolling her eyes. And mine's sitting right over there, Laura Wakila, who has been with me through all this very difficult job sometimes and has rolled her eyes a fair bit, Jack. But I'm proud to have her with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, the city of Florence is in a state of growth. In 2015, constructed and opened were the new Hotel Florence $2.5 million expansion, the Med Enroll $3.5 million rainwater building, 15,000 square feet and 150 new jobs, Redbone Alley, which is a $3.5 million sauce manufacturing on Baruti Street with 45 new jobs. Also in 2015, a number of other projects broke ground. The Stokes facility, $4.7 million, 20,000 square feet over on Evans and McQueen, and they are going to town on that building right now. Already in 2016, Hope Health opened, which is a $10 million investment at Lucas and Irby Street. In spring of 2016, as that comes forward, the Crest Corner development will come into fruition, which is a $10 million investment. Project Morgan, the identity of which will be revealed shortly, is a $4 million project on Evans and Irby with 60 new jobs. And in summer of 2016, this process will continue. The Health Sciences facility will be open, $15.5 million facility that is fantastic and beautiful and the envy of all of us in this community, Dr. Carter. The school district in Francis Marion and the city are cooperating also in the summer of 2016. Funds will come forward for the renovation of the McClinigan building and the Pointer building downtown, and also the complete reconstruction of the Beck Early Childhood Education Facility on Sumter Street. Also in the summer of 2016, you'll see the construction beginning of the new soccer complex, $7.5 million facility made possible with the help of the Bruce Lee Foundation, as well as a $5.25 million new basketball center with 3 courts and 30,000 square feet, and that's just the summer. Then in the fall of this year, we expect to see that parking deck on Chevis be completed, new apartments surrounding it. That'll be an $18 million investment downtown. Street work will be complete downtown. We'll see millions of dollars of street work on North, Northwest, and Northeast streets in North Florence and that area, and new home construction on Vista Street. All of this is only possible because of the work of a strong coalition, the city with the state and Francis Marion. The impact of Francis Marion's investment downtown is without rival. The Bruce Lee Foundation has also been a part of this coalition, had a massive impact on all of this development. And Chairman Poston, the county's investment has been enormous, and the massive effort that has been undertaken in these capital projects is incredibly significant. This coalition has set aside differences with the pure goal of achieving results. And ladies and gentlemen, the leader of that coalition, the founder of that coalition, is Senator Hugh Leatherman. He's fought for the city, he's fought for the state, and these accomplishments, quite simply, would not be possible without him. Now, I don't want to get too political, but I have heard outsiders say that Roger down in Pamplico, maybe folks ought to lay down in the Pamplico Highway. And I invite those who say that to do just that. Okay, help yourself. I'm proud of Chairman Leatherman. I'm proud of the coalition he's built. And I'm proud of what the city has been able to accomplish as a small part of that coalition. But I will tell you that my proudest moment as mayor, having been mayor now for 7 years, was not at a groundbreaking or at a construction project. My proudest moment as mayor was on a day last June. It was a day after one of the darkest moments in our state's long history. On a Wednesday evening that June, as you all know, a young man walked into a church Bible study. He sat with the members as they prayed. And then he stood up and he murdered them. He murdered them because they were black. I learned about that the next morning when I got a call from my neighbor across the street, my good friend, Reverend Merritt Graves. Pastor Graves told me what happened at his sister AME church, Mother Emanuel, the night before. He called me and he told me what happened. He told me we needed to bring the people of the city of Florence together, and we talked for a while. We talked about the terrible tragedy, and we talked about the danger to our community, the potential of division, the potential of violence that it presented to our community. And we determined to do what was in our power to prevent that. But the next morning, something happened that we couldn't foresee. The next morning, the families stood in a bond hearing, and they looked into the face of evil, of hatred. And they did something that I still can't really conceive of. They stood there and they looked at that young man and they forgave him. Hours after he had murdered their family, they stood there and they forgave him with grace. That same day, Pastor Graves, the city of Florence followed their example. In my proudest moment as mayor, that Friday in June, hundreds of Florentines, black and white, all denominations, of all backgrounds, came together at Mount Zion AME, and we responded to violent acts of racial hatred with tears, with words of unity, with words of compassion, and with love. And nothing fell down during the entire ceremony. It was great. Those actions of the Mother Emanuel families, of the people of Charleston, of the people of Florence, and in reality of people throughout this state in those days, quietly but firmly refuted all of the hateful, incendiary language of those, both black and white, who would widen our racial divide, who would exploit and inflame anger, and who would do it, why? To get votes, to get support, to conceal their own failures. Grace prevailed that Friday. It prevailed, folks, in spite of the fact that racism exists. It does not exist solely in the minds of the people in the black community. It walked into that church. It looked them in the face. And racism does not exist solely in the actions of a madman. Ladies and gentlemen, racism exists in our community. And it has existed in the division of black from white. And a division that was embodied for too long by a wall of rotting buildings and a junkyard that separated the people in the north of this city from the south of this city. It was expressed as infrastructure in the north was allowed to decay, roads crumbled and flooded, housing codes were unenforced, slumlords thrived, legitimate markets fled, along with those citizens that were able. And worse yet, the black and white communities became strangers to one another, and distance spread contempt. That was reality. We have done a great deal to heal that damage. That credit goes to the members of this coalition that we've talked about and the folks in this community. We have torn down the wall that divides us. Over 17 acres of property that used to be a junkyard, we removed 27,000 tons of contaminated soil from that site, 1,500 tons of debris. And in its place, what did we build? Hope Health built a $10 million, 50,000 square foot, fantastic healthcare facility that provides over 100,000 visits a year to a population 50% of which live at poverty. The crumbling downtown has been replaced with the investment of so many, like Mr. Tim Norwood, who have put millions of dollars in an investment that has now created a thriving downtown that brings people together. Neighborhood reinvestment is taking place in North, Northwest, and Northeast Florence, as we should do. Government has torn down walls and reinvested in our community to bring people together. We can do that. What we can't do is rebuild relationships. Government doesn't have that power. But our community has already begun that work as well. One group that has headed that effort is a group called Help Florence Flourish. Help Florence Flourish is a group that will tell you they don't have leaders. But they have very many, very important people who are active, including Reverend Anthony Hodge, who's here with us today. Mr. Jack Marchetti, who's here with us today. Reverend Chris Hanley out at First Pres, Francis Swink, and those folks and many others surveyed this community and asked folks, what do we need to do to make this city great? And resoundingly, the group was told, we need to confront racial division in this community. And they have done exactly that. They have identified that issue as our biggest obstacle, and their racial bridging focus group has gone to work building those relationships, and we appreciate that very, very much. We must support them. We must do this to be a great city. The city government can't do it alone, even with the great coalition we have built. To be a great city, those who have been strangers in this community for too long must be neighbors. And we must acknowledge, as Martin Luther King did, that we're all tied together in a great garment of destiny and an inescapable network of mutuality. Tearing down walls is not enough. Rebuilding downtowns and neighborhoods, though critically important, is not enough. And unity on one Friday in June is not enough. But it is where we start. Thank you.